Now let's talk about the operating system that causes more conflict than anything else. Not because people are bad communicators, but because they assume everyone thinks the way that they do. This is your Mercury sign, your communication operating system. It governs how you think, how you speak, how your brain processes information, especially under pressure. And this is where things break down. Two people can hear the exact same sentence and have completely different internal experiences. One person needs to talk immediately to figure out what they think. Another needs silence before they can respond at all. One person decides fast, another's mind goes blank if they're put on the spot. These aren't communication problems. They're different Mercury systems trying to run the same conversation. Let me show you how this works. Mercury governs three things: how you think, how your mind processes information, how you communicate, and how you express what's in your head. How you learn, what your brain needs in order to understand something new. And just like with the moon, there are four elements, four completely different communication styles. You have your fire Mercury, your earth Mercury, your air Mercury, and your water Mercury. Same information coming in, four different ways of processing it. Let's start with fire Mercury, Aries, Leo, Sagittarius. Think of fire Mercury like a lightning bolt. Fast, immediate, no delay between thought and speech. I worked with a team once where the manager had an Aries Mercury, and one of her direct reports had a Capricorn Mercury. In meetings, the manager would say, "Okay, we need to solve this problem. What should we do?" Her Aries Mercury knew the answer immediately. She started talking through ideas out loud, fast, one after another. The Capricorn Mercury employee would sit there quietly thinking. The manager interpreted the silence as, they don't have ideas, they're not engaged. The Capricorn Mercury employees thought, she's not giving me enough time to think, she's just talking at me. When I explained their Mercury signs, everything shifted. The manager learned to give 60 seconds of silence before expecting an answer. The Capricorn Mercury employee learned she's not expecting a perfect answer. She's just thinking out loud. That's fire Mercury and earth Mercury trying to communicate. Or picture fire Mercury in a brainstorming session. They're throwing out ideas rapid fire, half-formed thoughts. What if we did this? Or maybe this? Or wait, what about this? And then someone says, can you slow down? I can't follow you. And fire Mercury says, I'm not asking you to follow. I'm just processing out loud. See, fire Mercury thinks by speaking. The ideas form as they talk. Now, earth Mercury, Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn. Think of earth Mercury like a slow cooker. Everything needs time. And when it's done, it's thorough and well thought through. I had a client with Virgo Mercury preparing for a job interview, and she said, I'm terrible at interviews. They ask me a question and my mind just goes blank. Then an hour later, I think of the perfect answer. I looked at her chart and identified the Virgo Mercury. You're not bad at interviews, I told her. Your Mercury needs processing time. You can't think on the spot. So instead of trying to wing it, we prepared written answers to common questions ahead of time. She gave her Mercury time to organize. In the next interview, she nailed it. That's an Earth Mercury working with its processing speed instead of fighting against it. In relationships, this shows up too. So the partner says, why aren't you saying anything? Say something. And Earth Mercury will say, I'm thinking. Give me a minute. And the partner may say, you've had 5 minutes. And then Earth Mercury may say, I need more time. Because Earth Mercury doesn't have instant responses. They think before they speak. The ideas form internally and then they come out. So if you rush them, they're going to shut down or say something that they don't mean. And this is where people usually start labeling each other as too much or not enough, when it's actually just a different Mercury system coming online. Now, air Mercury, Gemini, Libra, Aquarius, think of air Mercury like a spider web. Every thought connects to another thought, then another. It's not linear, it's networked. I know someone with a Gemini Mercury, brilliant mind. But when she explains something, she starts in one place and then jumps to a related idea, then circles back and adds context, and then brings in a third point. People will say, "Can you just give me a shorter version?" And she says, "I am giving you the short version. There are 12 other things that I am not telling you." See, air Mercury doesn't think in straight lines. It thinks in constellations. So when you ask them a question, they don't just answer it. They give you context, connections, and exceptions. And that's not being long-winded. That's air Mercury processing through connection. Now, Libra Mercury version of this shows up in decision-making. Just pick one. It's not that complicated. But I need to think about how this affects everyone. What if there's a better option I haven't considered? To air Mercury, that's not overthinking. That's what thinking looks like. Now, water Mercury, Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces. Think of water Mercury like a river. The thinking flows. It feels its way to understanding. I worked with a writer who had Pisces Mercury, and she said, "Everyone tells me to outline before I write. But when I try, I freeze." When I looked at her chart and discovered she had Pisces Mercury, I said to her immediately, "Stop outlining and just write." And write she did. No plan, no structure. She just followed the feeling of the story. 3 hours later, she had 10 pages and it was good. That's water Mercury processing through intuition. This also shows up in decision making. Why did you choose that? I don't know. It just felt right. But what was your reasoning? I just knew. Because water Mercury doesn't always think in logic. It thinks in impressions and knowing. To other Mercury types, this sounds vague. To a water Mercury, it is clear. So now you can see why communication breaks down. Fire Mercury wants to decide now. Earth Mercury needs time. Air Mercury wants to talk through every option. And water Mercury wants to feel into the answer. Your fire Mercury thinks out loud. Earth Mercury thinks internally. Air Mercury needs discussion. And water Mercury needs space. None of these are wrong. They're just different systems. Now picture a couple planning a vacation. Fire Mercury says, "Just pick somewhere to go." And Earth Mercury says, "I need to research." Then Air Mercury is going to say, "But what about the weather and the activities?" And then here's Water Mercury saying, "Can we look at pictures and see what feels right?" Same decision, 4 Mercury systems. Without understanding this, it turns into judgment. You're impulsive, you're controlling, you overthink, you're unrealistic. With understanding, everything shifts. So when you understand your Mercury sign, communication gets clearer. You stop judging yourself for how you think. You stop taking other people's processing personally. But clarity alone doesn't always create connection. You can understand why someone communicates the way they do and still feel unseen, because communication is only one layer. See, understanding how someone thinks doesn't automatically tell you what they need to feel valued. See, you might be speaking the same language and still miss each other emotionally. That's where the next operating system comes in, your Venus sign. This is your connection operating system. It governs what you value, how you receive love, what makes you feel appreciated, and what creates real closeness for you. And this is where a lot of relationships break. And it's not because people don't care, but because they're expressing care in completely different ways. Here is where understanding stops being enough.